What is up, Mouse fam? Welcome back to episode 13 of Podcasting the Mouse. As most of you all know, just this last weekend, we had the D23 Disney Parks announcement. So today I brought on a good friend of mine and one of the most knowledgeable Disneyland people I know to talk all things D23 as it relates to Disneyland. And of course, I have my co-host with me, as always, Mr. KingdaKha, right over there. So, Mr. KingdaKha, why don't you get us started? Let everybody know where they can find you.
What's up, everybody? It's actually very good to be back. I'm very excited to be back. You guys can find me on YouTube, actually, at KingdaKha, spelled just like that right there. You can find me on Twitter if you would like to interact with me at KingdaKha92. And I post some pretty cool pictures on Instagram at KingdaKha_92. So if you would like to follow me there, that's where I am, and I'll follow back.
And Mr. KingdaKha, before we introduce our guest today, I would like to ask you why you have cheated on your home park of Disneyland to visit Walt Disney World for 2 straight trips. You've made 2 straight trips to Walt Disney World before you've been to Disneyland.
To be completely honest, I was coerced into going to Disney World in June. Like, I didn't even want to go, and I was like, guys, let's go to Disneyland. And they're like, no, we need to go. But in all seriously, I wanted to do Guardians. That's the main reason why I wanted to go to Disney World in the first place. So once Guardians opened, I had to do that. And then I only went to Disney World again just so I can do Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, because this is my favorite hard-ticketed event. And we will see if Oogie Boogie Bash will knock that down a peg. So.
All right. Well, we'll let you off the hook because you went to see Cosmic and you went for Mickey's Not So Scary. And in 2 weeks, actually less than 2 weeks when this comes out, you will be at Disneyland. So we'll let you off the hook. All right, and that means we will head into our introduction of our special guest, one of the most knowledgeable Disneyland people I know, and one of my good friends. I finally got to meet him in person a couple months ago. So, Mr. Dirk, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Dirk Libbey. I write about theme parks for CinemaBlend.com, which is where you can find all of my thousands of words about all things theme park. Also found on Twitter at ChildDirk. That's ChilDE_DIRK.
Awesome. Yeah, and if you guys already follow me and KingdaKha on Twitter, then you probably already follow Dirk Libbey. But if you don't, go ahead and follow him on Twitter over there and check out his amazing, amazing work on CinemaBlend. All right, with that being said, let's hop into topic number 1. And as I already said, we are going to be talking about D23 today. And we're going to be specifically focusing on Disneyland. That is my and Dirk's home park. And that is KingdaKha's proclaimed favorite park, quote unquote. We'll see if that's actually true. But yeah, so we're going to be focusing on just Disneyland today. And ironically enough, D23 did focus on Disneyland the most in their parks panel for the first time, at least since I can remember, at least the past 6 or 7 D23s. This is the first time Disneyland has been given the most announcements. So that's pretty exciting. Although overall, I'm a little bit underwhelmed when it comes to just Disneyland, but not terrible compared to, what everything else got. So, Dirk, we'll start with you. Just go ahead and give us your general thoughts on what Disneyland received. And then after you give your general thoughts, we can, dive into more specifics.
Well, I think overall, I thought the panel on the whole was fine. It was good. Disneyland and Disney World and the international parks as well. I know there was a feeling from a lot that like Disney World was missing some major announcements. But I think that overall it was a good panel with a lot of good announcements. There were a lot of strange things going on. The blue sky stuff at the end that was, I found that interesting as somebody who follows theme parks and is into that stuff. The nerdy part of me kind of got into that, but I thought it was a strange thing to make a part of the panel. Right. But overall, I thought it was good. There's good stuff coming for everybody, and I'm looking forward to seeing it all start to actually appear.
Right. Yeah, strange is a really good word because maybe Disneyland's announcements weren't as strange, but just the whole lead into the, the DCL, and then instead of them calling it the Adventure, which everyone thought it was, they called it the Treasure, and then just some interesting stuff on international parks, and then obviously the super strange, announcements regarding Disney World. I don't know if they were all bad. Like you said, Dirk, I loved the blue sky stuff. I think most of us loved it. It just didn't fit in a parks panel that was created, to announce stuff. So it would have been a fantastic like Disney Plus series. Like I would love that Blue Sky stuff as like a Disney Plus series. But yeah, we're focused on Disneyland. So in general, I think I agree with you, Dirk, that when it comes to Disneyland, it was between fine and like good. You know, like it wasn't bad and it wasn't great. It was solid. When it comes to the parks panel as a whole, I might be a little bit more negative than you. But yeah, for Disneyland, it was fine. KingdaKha, what are your thoughts?
First and foremost, am I good?
You're good.
Am I good? All right, cool. So I was there. I enjoyed the parks panels because anything parks related, I get very excited because I am now finally getting introduced into the Disney World, Disneyland agenda. I just started a couple years ago, so it's kind of like everything is fairly new to me. So anything new that is presented to me, I'm just overtly excited. So I think Disneyland definitely got the gist of the news. They got the gist of the upgrades, and I'm very excited because I'm now starting to visit it a little more frequently, and it is my favorite park of all time. So I was very ecstatic. I feel like I wasn't expecting what other people are expecting, and I'll dive a little bit into that later. But what we got is exactly what I was expecting, if that makes sense in a way. But I wasn't expecting any big new lands. I wasn't expecting anything too crazy. What was said about Disneyland and what is given is, I think, it's perfect for what I was expecting.
It met your expectations.
Yeah, it did.
Sure.
Because I know, especially when it comes to these things, I never have like a high expectation for things. I'll keep it low just so I am thoroughly surprised by things. I think people have those high expectations, especially because it's coming from a big corporation like Disney, and they expect big things to come out of these park panels all the time, 100%. But it's just like I try to be a little more realistic, and I get it. They are $1 billion company, but we're just coming out of COVID and all lockdowns and everything like that. I never expected anything too crazy. So everything that we got, I thoroughly enjoyed. But if you were talking about Disney World right now, completely disappointed when it comes to that side of everything. And
for sure.
But
I'm glad you brought up expectations, KingdaKha, because there's two things I feel like that play into that like on one side of the equation and the other. On the one hand, I completely agree. Like Disney fans have blown up way too much, and you have huge, actual journalistic sites or very, websites with a lot of clout literally reporting about new Tomorrowlands and literally reporting about all this stuff coming. Then you have, just the fact that we're still coming off of the pandemic, and Disneyland specifically was closed for 1.5 years still. So I get that side of it. But then the other side of it, I disagree with, because number one, this is a panel put on by Disney. Like Disney puts on the parks panel to announce Disney stuff. So they kind of set the expectations themselves. And then number two, you have so many of their current Imagineers announcing tidbits. Like I know that it's just small stuff, but you have Imagineers posting that they're at Disneyland, and you have working on stuff, and you have Imagineers like Zach Ridley posted with like a Figment shirt. I know it's Walt Disney World, but just so I feel like Disney themselves kind of builds it up too, and they probably shouldn't. But also the fans build it up more than they should, and we're still coming out the pandemic. So one thing I wanted to talk about too, and Dirk, I want to get your thoughts on this, is you and Kareem kind of talked about how everything was met expectations. I feel like the only thing that nobody saw coming, and like literally I haven't seen anybody talk about this with concrete details, was San Francisco. So what were your thoughts on that, Dirk?
Well, the reason nobody saw that coming was because nobody cares about that part of DCA. It's a part of the park that honestly, like, people who have been there don't realize that that's technically a separate land and its own thing. Like it's basically a food court. It's a food court and a sourdough bread tour. And that's what that's really all it is. So it's just not an area that that people talk about or think about. And that's the reason, honestly, that it was a surprise. It was like, wait, exactly. That's the wharf. That's a land.
Right. And it's funny because you said, Dirk, it's a glorified food court, and I was trying to think about the other Disney parks, and even Universal has a couple, but no other Disney park has like a glorified like food court where there's no rides or anything. The two attractions that are at Pacific Wharf is the bakery tour, which they better not get rid of that free bread, man. I will riot if we lose our Frito bread. And the second attraction is the Imagineering Blue Sky Cellar, which they have legitimately not used in like 3 years. So there's really not any real attractions there.
Right,
But
exactly. I
maybe
mean,
it'll be
yeah,
cool
I
to
mean,
get the-
so I mean, it'll be interesting to see exactly what happens to it, because, like, I mean, honestly, if they, if they clear it out and turn it into a much more San Francisco themed area, and it's like, okay, there's a meet and greet and whatever else they do with for Baymax and whatever else they do with it, it's like if you take all that actually out, you're actually gonna have a problem as far as like the food that's available in DCA and in that part of the park. But the thing is, because of that, I don't expect a drastic change. Like the cosmetics will change and it will look different, and they're gonna have this Baymax meet and greet. But I feel like that's really all that's going to change. What the food is might change if they decide, we want to do other things to make it a little bit more themed. But it's not going to be a drastically changed area. I mean, having said that, I mean, okay, cool. I mean, I like Big Hero 6, so I'm cool with it. Let's see. Yeah. I'm excited that they're going to do something with it that'll that'll give it a little bit more, I don't know, oomph to that area, and it'll be, hopefully it'll make it more noticed, so that in the future people will know that that's there, because it's so easy to just kind of, it's like, forget that is technically a separate land and everything else in the air around it.
I feel like if you want to go based off the concept art, you're absolutely right. There isn't going to be that much of a. I feel like there's not going to be that much of a change. You're going to add a couple lights. You can't do too much with that, because I feel like with Pacific Wharf, it's right. I wouldn't say right in the middle of the. Well, yeah, it's right in the middle of the park.
Yeah, it's kind of a hub in terms of walkways.
So it's kind of like you shut all that down, and it's just like a very awkward, like it'll be too. I feel like, I don't know. I just feel like it'll be too much. So I feel like they're just gonna add certain things in there, take away certain elements, and then just update what's already there. Like you said, they're gonna put in more thematically themed food courts there, and throw Baymax in there, and obviously throw a couple posters up to make it look like San Francisco, and it's gonna look cool at the end of the day. But I mean, I feel like it goes over people's heads, because you just know that it's not gonna be that much that they're gonna go off of. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, and you brought up an interesting point too at the start, Kareek, about I think you're trying to get at, like, if they tore that land down and made it really, like, built it up really well, it wouldn't work logistically. I think that's a good point, because like Kareek, I don't think you ever visited, but Dirk, you probably know what I'm talking about. When they were still building Avengers Campus, but after Bugs Land had closed, so post Bugs Land but pre Avengers Campus, Guardians was literally like a dead end. Like, to get to Guardians was like actually a pretty big, like, a haul. If you close Pacific Wharf, like, I don't even know if it would be possible, because you would have to go so far down to get to Cars Land. And then it's just like a really important, like, walking path, I feel like, between Cars Land and so they're probably just going to do some overlays. So yeah, we'll see. It's probably not going to be anything expansive, but was there anything else that caught you off guard, Dirk, that you were, because I feel like for me, there wasn't anything huge that caught me off guard, but there's a couple small stuff. Is there anything else that caught you off guard?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I mean, I think especially as far as Disneyland itself goes, everything sort of, it was I was either something I was expecting to happen or something that I was hoping would happen. Yeah. So I mean, I think overall it was kind of right in line with what was probably going to happen with
sure. Yeah, I mean, even for Downtown Disney, they announced the name of the hotel, which was cool. I don't think we knew the exact name, but nothing really new details. And then obviously we already knew about Din Tai Fung, so that wasn't shocking. They did announce Portos, which I have never tried. I feel like KingdaKha, you probably never tried it either. So Dirk, you might have to give us a lowdown on Portos. But
I am not familiar with Portos. I mean, I'm familiar with Portos by name, but I've never eaten anything there, so I don't really have much to say on that. Yeah, I guess that is one thing that maybe I was expecting a little bit more on, was just sort of the future of Downtown Disney as far as the area that's under construction. Yeah, maybe a little more information on, like, what's going on there, when is that going to be done, and that kind of thing. Yeah, I was a little surprised that we didn't get more on that.
Yeah, kind of related to that, Dirk, exactly what you're saying of, like, being surprised that we didn't get more. I personally, like, I was fine with the Parks Panel for Disneyland, but I feel like there were so many softballs that they could have just served up and hit a single or a double, and they just completely struck out on. so many downtown Disney details that they could have announced. If you're not going to announce a treehouse date, at least give us the treehouse theme. Like if you tell us what the treehouse is going to be, like in Kanto or something else, people will freak out, and like that's a great like easy win. And you had easy wins with like just more downtown stuff. I feel like I'm forgetting something. I guess more Toontown details, but they kind of touched on that. So I just feel like there was a lot of easy wins. Oh, Hyperion.
Yeah.
Like, you could have announced, even if you don't have an opening date, just say what's coming to the Hyperion. Like I just feel like there were so many like easy softballs that they just completely whiffed on. And Dirk, to your point, downtown Disney being one of them.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and that was the case, across the board. I mean, in California, we're talking about the Hyperion, we're talking about the treehouse. It's like, this is stuff that we know, we know that something is going to happen there eventually. Like, the treehouse is under construction. You walk by it and it's covered in, it's covered in walls. It's like, it's not like this is new information. It's currently happening. The same thing with like, in Orlando, the same thing with something like the Disney World Railroad. Like, okay, you gave us a window on Tron, but you didn't is the railroad going to be open before then? Are we like, is the railroad going to open the same day that Tron does? Is it going to happen sooner?
Yeah, same with Fantastic.
Even that much information would have been useful. And we know that that's information you're going to have to give us eventually.
Right. That's my thing. KingdaKha and I are in a group chat with my co-host Andrea and a couple other people, my wife, and that was what I brought up because people were saying like, oh, Disney can announce all this stuff later, and I completely agree. Like, announce it later, that's fine. But you have a parks panel that you created that you sell for hundreds of dollars. You open up your security at 4:30 a.m. for this 10:30 a.m. panel. Like, you're the one building hype for the panel. Take the easy softballs and deliver them. Like, I agree with you, Dirk. We'll probably get this stuff, in a couple like weeks. Like, we'll probably get news on, Tomorrowland or whatever months down the road. But if you have even a morsel of info on it now, deliver it at your parks panel so people aren't disappointed. But
I've heard bigger news from Disney Parks Instagram than I did at D23.
Well, Instagram and TikTok is where they've been dropping all their stuff, like, which I guess is cool, but it's just interesting choice.
Well, I'll tell you, on something like Tomorrowland, like the fact that it wasn't brought up in the panel tells me that's not like, don't even think about that for a while.
Really, like 5-10 years down the road.
If that was in the plan, like really in the plan for the next couple of years, they would have said something. So the fact that something that big, to me, the fact that they didn't says it's just not even like they're not even there yet.
You're 100% right.
They'll mention Tomorrowland 2 years from now at the next D23.
I don't even think they're gonna touch upon that. Honestly, people are hyping that up so much that they want Tomorrowland redone and everything like that. That they're so focused on other parts and aspects of Disneyland and DCA that they're not worried about Tomorrowland. That's how I feel personally. I mean, I don't know what's going on in those board meetings, but you're absolutely right that if something was brewing or stirring up, just like we have these concept arts from Disney World or whatever that they're talking about in these meetings, they would have said something about Tomorrowland because they know that that's what people want is a whole big Tomorrowland overhaul. And
that's a home run hitter right there.
They're not doing anything with it right now.
And shout out on episode, I think it was episode 11, I had my other co-host Andrea on, and she's predicted that there would be hardly any news for Tomorrowland. So she was right. She said the one thing that they would come is they'd reopen Launch Bay and put a bar there. So she was pretty much right there. But the reason why I'm shocked is I agree with you guys. Like, a new Tomorrowland is way down the road. And I'm honestly okay with that because it's going to be so much money. I'd rather them just, wait until they have more money. But the thing that not bugs me, but the thing that shocks me is there was so much smoke around Tomorrowland between Dusty Sage from Mice Chat, which, say what you will, that man has killed every prediction he's made. And he predicted for sure there'd be a Tomorrowland update. That was wrong. You have the Imagineer, I forget who it was, but one of the Imagineers posting at Tomorrowland right after there's a bunch of Tomorrowland rumors, like saying that he's working on projects. Then you have
that was Scott Trowbridge, the Imagineer who managed Galaxy's Edge.
Right. And so I just feel like
that one tweet like launched 1,000 People Mover rumors. But
there was even smoke about People Mover before that. So I just am a little shocked because I feel like there was so much smoke around that. But I do agree with you guys that like KingdaKha said, they have so many other projects right now. And we're still in a labor shortage too. Like COVID might be wrapping up in terms of just how we handled it, but the labor shortage is still 100% real. And like Disney, I think Disney regrets, or at least I hope they regret, completely shutting down construction work during COVID, at least for how long they did. I would hope that they regret, laying off so many third-party construction workers. So who knows for sure, but
I think we're in this. We are definitely in this post-COVID strange limbo. I think that was part of it. Like on the Disney World side, where people were so frustrated, was like, because if that hadn't happened and that hadn't thrown so many schedules off, then we would be due for some big Disney World announcements.
Yeah,
but we're not there yet because Epcot's not done, because Tron isn't actually open yet. And it's been almost 5 years since they started building Tron, and it was supposed to be open by now. And if it was, we'd be talking about whatever the next thing for like Magic Kingdom is in a more real way. But we're not talking about that because we haven't even opened the bloody roller coaster yet.
Right.
And so fans are expecting those big announcements, because had things not changed, we would be due for them. But because of the way everything went to hell on a handcart, the actual construction on the stuff that they are currently working on, that they announced way long ago, isn't actually done. And so we're in this limbo, this strange limbo area where things are a little out of sync. And they need to get all the stuff that's currently done actually completed, and then we can maybe get back in sync and get back on the schedule that we used to be on.
Right. No, I 100% agree with you, Dirk. And that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up. The only wrench to that idea, at least publicly, is the fact that Universal is full steam ahead and has been full steam ahead outside of a couple months. Yeah. They're opening new rides at a crazy rate. And at least when it comes to California, that's not as big of an issue, because Universal Hollywood is opening up a new ride every year. But that's not as big of a problem for Disney, because Universal Hollywood is still so far behind Disneyland. Yeah. But even when it comes to Hollywood and more so Orlando, that's not making Disney look the best at a company like Comcast, which is theoretically smaller than Disney, but honestly probably has more money. They're going full steam ahead, and they're still opening rides at an every year basis. And so if Universal didn't exist, I don't think people would really care that much, or people would understand. But the fact that their main competitor has gone full steam ahead definitely doesn't make Disney look quite as good in this scenario.
Yeah, I don't really know what's going on over in Disney World. Because you're right. I was just about to say that, actually. Bring up the fact that you have Epic, what is it called, Epic Universe. Yeah. That you and now, mind you, everybody has this point of, oh my gosh, Disney World is giving us nothing, but look at Universal. They're making a whole new park. Well, yes, because Disney already has 4 parks in Florida that they are managing. And Universal only has, technically 2 big parks, and then they have the add-ons like the Peppa Pig and all this other stuff. But it's just of course, the Universal is gonna make their own park. I don't like when people try to, especially in this era of D23 and their expectations not being met. They're coming at Disney and they're like, oh well, Disney, look at you guys. You guys aren't giving us what we want. When look at Universal, they're making a whole new. Well, they need to catch up, in that sense. You know what I mean? So I'm glad that the Universal is actually making a brand new park. So that's a given. But obviously, fans also have the right to be upset or disappointed when it comes to certain things, because, in a sense, now I'm trailing away from Disneyland, where Disney World it needs so many other upgrades, especially in one park that is lacking, Animal Kingdom.
A couple parks needed upgrades, yeah.
They're only focusing on Tron and Moana right now. I think those are the biggest that they're trying to get done, and it's just it's lacking so much.
But the problem with that is Velocicoaster was announced after those things, and Velocicoaster opened in the middle of COVID a year ago.
Exactly. I don't know what's going on over there. I don't know what's going on with the Imagineers at Disney World, but for some reason, Tron is taking the longest, and it should have been done by now. That's one thing I will say, is that what the hell is going on over there? Why is it taking so long? I get COVID. I 100% understand. But a ride like that, where you're not building animatronics, you're not building, it's a roller coaster.
It's a roller coaster that already exists. Yeah, I feel like now, and I might be wrong, I don't know for sure on this, but I feel like now it's more so about just them wanting to delay the opening just to have something open next year. rather than, this year. But they announced Tron as part of the 50th, and it's not gonna. But they announced the 50th is ending, and Tron will be opening after that, which so it's literally not even gonna open the whole 50th. And I mean, you had Guardians opening late, you had Ratatouille opening late, and so yeah, I mean, I feel like it's more of a case of Disney just wanting to spread everything out now instead of it actually not being ready yet. Because if Josh D'Amaro and other people are already writing it, like it's not a year away, it's not 10 months away. But I'm not an engineer, so who knows? But anyways, if you guys have anything else to add on that, our next segment is also related to that, so you can throw anything else on. But really quick, we'll move to our topic number 2, which is the good, the bad, and the great. But we're staying on topic. We're still going to talk about D23 at Disneyland. So we're going to talk about our good that we liked from the panel, our bad that we took from the panel, and then a great that we took from the panel. So Dirk, you can get us started. You'll start with our good, your good of the Disneyland panel, and then we'll go to me. So you can get us started.
Right. Well, my good from the panel regarding Disneyland is the fact that Magic Happens is actually returning.
Damn it.
Because I did not make it to the park in the 2 weeks that it ran before we closed everything. I did a phone interview a couple months before that with Jordan Peterson, no, not that one, who is the live entertainment show director for that parade. I interviewed him, and he got me all pumped for that parade, and I was so excited. And then I missed the 2 weeks before that it actually ran, and so I was very happy to actually hear them say for certain, yes, it is coming back, because I definitely want to go check that out.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Dirk, is that interview you had on CinemaBlend?
I don't have. I have a couple stories that came from the interview on the website.
Okay. Cool.
And
I'll link the website down in the comments so you guys can go check out the articles you wrote from that. But yeah, that's a good one. I'm glad you touched on that. My good is actually San Francisco. And when I first heard it, I was a little let down just because it kind of felt out of left field and underwhelming. But the more I thought about it, I really like it for one reason. And that is that everyone always says that DCA is no longer California and they need to change the name. But I actually completely disagree. I think that DCA is now California, but the Disney version. So you have the car culture of California, but the Disney version in cars. You have like Buena Vista, which is the Disney version, or like in Walt's perspective of that area. You have Hollywoodland. You have like Grizzly Peak, which is like the Disney version of how that would be. And I feel like San Francisco is perfect because, yeah, I know it's only like 50% California and a lot of it is based on Tokyo, but that really is like San Fran culture. It's based in that. And Pacific Wharf already is already based on San Fran. So you're taking that Disney version of that. So it might not be great. It might not come for a long time, but I also love Baymax. I'm a massive Baymax fan. So if I can get a meet and greet with Baymax, I'm all for it. So I'm actually a proponent of San Francisco.
Well, if you want to meet Baymax, just come on over to Epcot once everything's done.
I know
he's coming back.
I know.
I know he's coming back. I have a feeling he will be, but
he will.
But my good is same as Dirk's. It is Magic Happens. That is one parade I think on Twitter I am very actively like bring. Excuse my language. This shit back now. I want it back now. I need to see it. I saw. I told myself I wasn't gonna watch any of the videos from the opening day, and then I saw them, and I'm just like, this is the first time you have like a Moana float, Maui. I love Maui, so I'm just like, well, Maui. So I need to see that. When that comes back next year, Sean is booking my trip. I'm going for all I need is a day, 2 days. All I need is 2 days.
Nah, you need to see that back-to-back night.
Literally.
One night to watch it and one night to record it.
Exactly. I need there to be a nighttime because I know they did that when Magic happened. They did the daytime, but then I did it look a little closer tonight so they can see the effects of the
like that. Right.
Yeah, and that's what I really want to see because I know that they have that Moana projection and it looks freaking amazing at night. And the Coco float, I got to see that. Like that's my top 5 to see in Disneyland. So. Yep. Sorry.
Wow, that's a solid answer. I love it. All right. Well, we'll get a little negative after that. So, Dirk, why don't you get us started? What is your bad that you took from the Parks panel for Disneyland?
My bad is really, really. I really kind of did have to nitpick to find something that I really thought was bad. And so my bad is I was a little disappointed to see the cosmetic design for Tiana's Bayou Adventure. and how little they have changed of it, apparently.
Mm.
One of the things that I thought was great in the initial concept art, and I understand that concept art is never going to always be the real thing, but Mama Odie's tree being at the top of the mountain, I thought was a really cool addition, a really nice way to kind of transform Splash Mountain into this Princess and the Frog attraction. And the fact that that's not there, I like that was one thing that did disappoint me.
Yeah, for sure. No, I'm with you there, and I think everyone would agree on that. It's just the problem with concept art. My bad, and this, just like you said, Dirk, is a little nitpicky because I don't have anything too bad. And I was gonna say my bad is how much they didn't announce, but we already talked about that before. So my bad is the specific ride vehicle change for the Avengers e-ticket. I don't love the multiverse idea, but I'm okay with it, especially if they bring us a Wakanda land sometime in the future. So I'm okay with them changing it from the Avengers e-ticket to, you know, this new multiverse ride. Like, that's fine. And I'm not even against the fact that they had to, you know, completely rechange their plans. I'm just annoyed that we're losing a technological like advancement for just another like dark ride. And yeah, it might be trackless and they'll probably throw some really cool effects at us, but based on the ride vehicle that we saw, it just feels underwhelming for me, in the case that DCA would be perfect for like a brand new, you know, technological ride. And I get it, like capacity restraints, they probably couldn't make the like flight of passage individual flight thing work with capacity. I totally get that. But that goes back to your point, Dirk, about concept art, and like, don't tell us we're getting that then unless you know for sure that it'll work. And so I was a little underwhelmed in just seeing a normal ride vehicle with like the Indiana Jones style ride seats. That kind of sucks, but whatever. It's a little nitpicky. I'm just glad we're getting an Avengers e-ticket in general.
My bad. I'm just gonna get to it. I'm just pissed that they didn't announce. They didn't announce what was coming to the treehouse. I think I was just.
You've been talking about that for so long, Curry.
Like, I'm so pissed because Dirk, I don't know if you know, I'm like a huge Tarzan fan. So the fact that I went to Disneyland for the first time and then it wasn't open, and I'm like, okay, they're doing like, you know, updates, remodeling, whatever. And then it doesn't open, and then they say that it's not coming back, and I'm like, all right, well now I want to see the what's it, precedent, whatever you call it. I want to see what's coming up next. You know what I mean? So the fact that you didn't tell me, you guys have been working on this literally till this day, it's a year.
Yeah, over a year. I know.
Like, come on,
has it been that long? Wow.
Yeah. So, and Kareek, you've been talking about, you know, that treehouse since this podcast started. Like, legitimately, like the fact that it's been closed for so long is one thing, but the fact that they add the parks panel after it's been closed for a year and they still can't announce like what's coming, yeah, I'm with you, man. That's rough for sure.
And it's just
all
a
right.
Come on.
I know, it's a treehouse. All right, that's too much negativity. We'll hop back to our great. Dirk, get us started. What is your great from the parks panel?
Well, my great was just the Avengers e-ticket being confirmed that yes, it is in fact coming. I'm just that was sort of my my item on my list of like the thing that I'm not certain they're going to do, but I hope they will, and I think it's very important that they do.
Yeah.
And so I was glad that they finally did that. You know, and you know, going back to concept art, I'm not really worried about concept art at this point. My feeling is that, you know, the whatever the ride, I think the only thing that is really ultimately going to change about that ride versus what it was going to be versus what it will become is the story of the ride. I think everything else more than likely is going to be whatever it was going to be as far as ride vehicles and everything else. So I'm not really worried about that. And you know, we'll see, you know, and we'll never know what they were actually going to do the first time around.
Yeah.
But I'm just glad that is coming, because I do think that is one thing that, I mean, Avengers Campus needs it. DCA needs it.
Yeah.
It's a ride that needs to happen. Let's start working on it right now.
Yep. Yeah, and Dirk, you called it on your Twitter. You said that you're pretty confident that they're going to announce that, and we actually did too on a podcast. I think it was like episode 10 or something. I was pretty confident that they would announce it. I just didn't know they were changing it so much, and I'm glad you're more optimistic than me, because I'm disappointed in the ride system, but I'm with you that I'm excited it's finally coming. My great is just entertainment in general, and this kind of goes to what you guys touched on Magic Happens with Your Good. But I'm just happy that Disneyland and the front office knows how important entertainment is to Disneyland. We got the new World of Color, we got Magic Happens, we got the fireworks, which we knew about. I think they announced it like a month ago, but I'm just happy that they understand how important entertainment is to Disneyland, because I feel like they kind of are missing what makes Disneyland special lately, but they definitely know with the entertainment. So I don't know if I'm like super stoked about any of the 3 announcements. Magic Happens is great, but I'm just happy they're focused on entertainment again. So that's my great.
My great is I'm piggybacking off of Dirk again because Dirk's just in my mind. I hate you. Avengers e-ticket, that's what was needed, especially when it first opened, because I mean, you can't have an Avengers Land without a really big, like, crazy ride. And they gave us Spider-Man, which was subpar at best. I think it was cool, but it's a freaking workout, and I'm tired at the end of it. And great. I think
it's just a family ride.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But it needed that Avengers ride. It needed an Avengers type of ride. And I understand where Sean is coming from. Because from the concept art that we got the last time, it looked like we had like I don't even know what it was, like an overhead jetpack thing, and that would have been cool. But it looks like we got a Rise of the Resistance type ride vehicle. But you know what? At the end of the day, we're getting a brand new ride, and it's going to be something big, and it's going to be something major that I know Disney needs to knock out of the park, because you can't open up the very first Avengers Campus and not have a ride that literally kind of embodies the whole park. And if they don't do that right, then it's all for nothing at this point. But I know that they're gonna do well on this, and I like the whole King Thanos concept. And the multiverse is very confusing. So it's like, are we gonna see old Avengers? Are we gonna see new Avengers?
They had like a cartoon Spider-Man that's not from Spider-Verse.
Yeah, I saw that too. Like, I literally zoomed in and I'm looking at everybody, and I'm like, okay, so I see new, old. I see like into the Spider-Verse type looking cartoon.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I want to know where they're going with this, and I'm excited. Like, are they gonna bring back old people to cameo for this ride? You know what I mean? Like, are we gonna see Chris Evans with the Captain America, Sam Wilson? You know what I mean? Like, I'm just very excited to see what they're gonna do, and I have high expectations, but I just hope that it goes.
No, I'm with you guys too. It's in my bad because of the ride vehicle change. I'm with you guys overall. This is amazing news. Like, DCA needs it, like Dirk was talking about. DCA needs it so bad, and it'll fill out Avengers Campus perfectly. I'm just nervous because, like, there's no way there's going to be any animatronics. There's no way it's going to be anything other than like just screens. Maybe I'm underestimating Disney here, but I feel like it's going to be hard for them to do practical effects. But I hope maybe I'm lowering my expectations so that it'll blow me away. You know, I'm just happy we're getting it, even if it takes 4 or 5 years, whatever. As long as we're getting it, it's good news.
I feel like it's gonna be like Guardians. It's gonna be like Guardians. I'm sorry. It's and when it comes to screens, it might just be a Guardians type situation.
You're talking about Cosmic Rewind or Guardians?
Yes, sorry. Yes, Cosmic. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Hey, I'll take Cosmic, bro. I love that. I love that coaster. So, but anyways, you guys can let us know down in the comments what your thoughts are on D23 Parks as a whole. We're gonna hop into our third topic here, and topic number 3 is our top 5. So for those that don't know, Dirk is a big fan. I mean, we all love rides. Like, no, I'm not saying he doesn't love rides, but Dirk is a big fan of just taking in the lands as they are and just hanging out. And I feel like a lot of, APs will say the same. So our top 5 this week is the top 5 lands at Disneyland to just hang out in. So you don't have to do any rides. You don't really have to do any shows, whatever, just to take in the atmosphere, chill, hang out, just relax. So, Dirk, why don't you get us started? And then before we get started, we're kind of running a little late, so maybe everyone just share, we'll go one at a time, but just share like one sentence about why it's where it's at. So, Dirk, you can get us started. What is your number 5?
Number 5 is Radiator Springs. Just a cool place to hang out. Always good music, and it's got a nice vibe to it.
Amen. Good answer. All right, Creek, we can go counterclockwise this time.
I got you. My number 5 is actually the hub right in front of the castle. I just like sitting there, taking in the sights, and it just feels nostalgic just to be back there. Even though even the first time I was there, I've never been there, but it's like, wow, this feels like home. It was freaking amazing. The castle was original, so.
Right. Yeah, that's my number 5 too. I just did Main Street as a whole because I feel like there's a lot of cool spots going up Main Street to sit and people watch or like eat at the Carnation Cafe. And then just a really quick thing for our viewers too that don't know, Karik and I didn't grow up going to Disney parks. Dirk, I know you did a lot more than us. So Karik looks at it as like a Disney fan of the movies. Dirk looks at it as like a fan, but also like he writes for the parks. I just look at it as like a theme park fan. I didn't grow up going to Disney. I just grew up going to theme parks. So we all kind of have a different perspective. So it's kind of cool that, here Kareek say like I have nostalgia, even though I didn't grow up going to the parks, because I kind of feel the same way. So
That's
yeah,
right.
that's my main street. Just such a great place that people watch. Sitting on a bench at the hub, like Kareek said, people watching is perfect. So that's my number 5. All right, Dirk, number 4.
Number 4 for me is Galaxy's Edge. I do think that one of the things about Galaxy, I mean, say what you will about Galaxy's Edge, and there's a lot that could be said, and not all of it's good, but like it absolutely does feel like you're somewhere else. The first time I went there, I was there I got to do one of the media previews, and so it was the day before it actually opened. And as I was leaving, they had cast members stationed at the entrance to keep the wrong people from going through. And I literally started to take my backpack off my shoulder because I thought I was going to go through like bag check because mentally I hadn't been at Disneyland anymore.
That's amazing.
Like, mentally, I was walking into Disneyland from somewhere else, and it still feels that way when I'm there. That part of it really is just cool.
Yeah,
I could just picture Dirk walking out and like handing them his backpack and like starting to like walk through the scanner that isn't there.
Almost. I realized my mistake before I actually got to them, so I didn't make a fool of myself. But the thought did cross my mind.
That's amazing. All right, Kareem.
My number 4 is New Orleans Square, but right where the Mint Julep Bar is, it's just like nice little hangout area, and it makes me feel like I'm in New Orleans, and it's just kind of crazy because I've never been. So the vibe that I get from there, the music, the scenery, it's actually really cool. And then you look out and you see where they do the Phantasmic. I forget, was it Davy Crockett? I forgot. Whatever the area. It's just nice to see, and then you got the river and everything like that. So I like that little area.
I think I'm pretty sure that's French Market, that area where like over by Mint Julep, where it's just like a great little seating area with that little bandstand.
Yes.
Great. My number 4 is same as Dirk, and I'm not going to speak much because Dirk knocked that out of the park. Say what you will about how Galaxy's Edge works as a theme park land. It's insane as just a land. Like, I don't know if they killed the like actual like entertainment and characters and all that, but they 100% killed the backdrop and they 100% killed the like palette that they built. So I love Galaxy's Edge. All right, top 3, Dirk.
All right, number 3 is New Orleans Square for me. Most of that's already been said now, so I won't say too much more. But I mean, it's New Orleans Square. It feels very it's a very comforting place to be and to just kind of sit and grab a seat, get a Mickey beignet, and sit down and watch the world go by.
My number 3 is actually Cars Land. So there was a time where I went in December for the first time ever, and I just sat there. I was by myself, and I'm just taking everything, and I'm like, wow, this is being so well. Like, I just felt like I wasn't even in like a Disney park like they did. I felt like I was actually in, Radiator Springs, and it was so cool to see the decorations and everything. And it was just really chill hearing the Christmas music going around while just, it was just great vibes, just great vibes. So I love being there.
Amen. My number 3 is Route 66. Dirk called the Radiator Springs, Kareek called the Cars Land, so I'll call it Route 66. Everything you guys said. My only con, like this could have been even higher on my list, but it lacks seating, which is kind of the case with most of our answers, to be honest. But there's just not a lot of like amazing spots to sit and eat besides a couple benches, sit and hang out besides a couple benches. But you do have the eating areas, so the Cozy Cone and flows. So in terms of that, perfect. If it had a little bit more seating, it would be even better. But as is Cars Land, kind of what Dirk said about Galaxy's Edge, it's the best spot to just sit and feel like you're in a completely different world. All right, top 2, Dirk.
Number 2 for me is Avengers Campus.
Ooh, interesting.
I think the thing that Avengers Campus does well, sort of the opposite of Galaxy's Edge. I mean, it's not this huge, expansive place that necessarily feels, like you're in another world. But the way that they use the characters there, they're not just standing in one place for a photo op, but they're walking around and they're talking to you, and it makes that land feel so alive.
Yep.
That just sort of sitting down, grabbing a drink at Pim's. You can also grab a drink there, which is a nice thing to do. So you grab a drink at Pim's, you grab a seat, and you just sort of watch everything go by. You know that you've got the Dora Milaje doing their show, not in a like theater area, but basically right in the middle of the bloody walkway.
Yeah.
You know, and it just the whole land just feels more alive. And so it's cool to watch that happen as you're walking through it or sitting down and just watching it go happen.
Yeah, Dirk, I've always said, I'm glad you brought that up, because I've always said that Avengers Campus is the mirror opposite of Galaxy's Edge, in that everything that Galaxy's Edge does amazingly, Avengers Campus misses the mark. But everything that Galaxy's Edge misses the mark on, Avengers Campus does amazing. Like Avengers Campus has the backdrop, but it's really lacking in the characters' entertainment and the liveliness. Whereas Avengers Campus is lacking in the like big, you know, wide open, like impressive architecture, but it absolutely kills the entertainment and the characters. So they're kind of opposite. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Oh, my number 2 is Toontown. There's just something so cool about being like, I never saw the original Toontown in Disney World because, like Sean said, I never grew up. Well, I went once, but I was like 2 years old, so I'm not gonna remember that. But yeah, being in Toontown, it just feels like you're just like in a cartoon, and I'm like, wow, this is so cool. But there's one spot specifically right in front of their Mickey's fountain, where like the instruments, and I didn't know that if you like stepped on one, like I don't know, it was just really cool. I just took it all in, and it was just cool to see. And even with the construction of the new ride being built at the time, like you just bypass that and just vibe there. It was really cool, and see the characters just come out and walk around and stuff like that. It was cool. So
I got bad news for you for the future on that little fountain creek, but I'll let you figure that one out yourself.
Yeah, figured. But
you
I
guys,
saw the concept art, so I'm not that mad. There's other fountains.
Nah, Toontown's gonna be good. The reimagined. You guys threw curveballs with your number 2 there. I'm impressed. My number 2 is not a curveball. New Orleans Square, just like you guys said, it's just the best place to just sit and relax, like Dirk said, and feel like you're in a completely different place. I feel like it has a lot of solid seating areas too. It can be hard to get seating, but there's a really big seating area up by Stage Door Cafe, and you have the benches down by the Rivers of America, and then a couple the new seating at Pelican's Landing, which is a great little spot. So yeah, New Orleans Square is just the best spot to just sit and chill. All right, number 1. Let's get us started with your number 1,
okay.
Dirk.
My number 1 is a real curveball because it's Buena Vista Street.
Wow.
That one is got some kind of personal connections. Like, you know, my dad was like, you know, not quite so old that like 1930s, you know, stuff was his thing. He's not, you know, he was born after that, but his favorite music was from that era. So that's the music I grew up listening to. And so that whole sort of, I've always loved that era of music and movies and all of that. And so just, you know, that experience of kind of walking into like Main Street and like feeling like you've walked into a whole other world. Buena Vista Street is like that, but with the nostalgia. So like, you know, the personal nostalgia was there for me the first time I walked onto Buena Vista Street. And obviously it's not even that, Buena Vista isn't even that old. So it's not quite old enough to really have nostalgia for it yet. But I dig everything about that era. So it just works for me. You know, and like, you know, hanging out on Buena Vista Street on like Dapper Day is the best place in the world to be. There is nowhere else better. I would like, I haven't been to Dapper Day in a few years, and what I miss is sitting on a bench and watching people on Dapper Day wander up and down Buena Vista Street.
Yeah. Dirk, I didn't add it to my list, and it was on one of my honorable mentions because I don't spend much time there. But the 2 times I've like spent on Buena Vista Street just sitting doing nothing was one during Dapper Day, and the second during Halloween at night when they have the like purple fog going on. Like, Buena Vista. So we're just talking Halloween time. Buena Vista Street, it's up there for me too. So that's a good answer.
I can't wait. I actually can't wait to do that during Halloween. But my number 1 is so in Fantasyland. It's Fantasyland. There's a spot literally right next to the castle before you walk into where Peter Pan and Snow White is. There's a spot on the left. I'm sorry, where the princesses meet, and you have the that Tangled statue, and then you have the that show that goes on, that princess show.
Yeah,
It was never
it's called
open.
Fantasy Fair.
Yeah. So there's these two tables where it's just so serene, and around the time it was the princesses were out and just kind of walking around that little area, and I would just sit there. And there was one day where I was just kind of just taking it in because I'm not from Disneyland, so I don't know when I'm ever gonna get there next. So just sitting there peaceful, nobody was there, like literally there was nobody around. I think I was just talking to like Snow White, and then next was like Cinderella that came out, and we were just like kind of like normal conversation. It was just so cool because I was just so at peace, and I love that area. And just so it obviously is not hidden, and especially now because that everything's back to normal with meet and greets, I'm pretty sure that it's ravaged with people. But at the time it was very like soothing and comforting. And then on the other side you have those Snow White statues with her wishing well, which is another pretty cool place to just hang out and chill. You might encounter some characters, but that's my number one spot, and I will always remember that because it was just so like relaxing, and I was like, this is literally the epitome of like Disneyland. Like, I don't know, I just loved it so much. So,
yeah, there's not many hidden areas in Disneyland anymore, or like, you know, quiet spots, but that might be one of the last ones. So that's a really good answer. And I'm happy that our 5 through 3 were all pretty like, you know, the same, but our top 2 are all very different. So I'm happy about that. My number 1, and I'm shocked no one mentioned this because I feel like this is easy, is Grizzly Peak Airfield. I just cannot fathom a more beautiful area in a theme park outside of Animal Kingdom to ever exist. The fact that it like connects thematically to the Grand Cali and the Napa Roads in that area, and like it's just an incredible area. I don't love to do the rides in there because Soarin' and Grizzly usually have high weights, but just hanging out in there and like just sitting, and it does need a little bit more seating area, but that little back trail behind Grizzly, oh, just man, freaking fantastic and super relaxing. So that is my number 1. All right, guys, let us know down the list. What is your top 5? Did we forget a land at Disneyland? It's super obvious. Let us know. And with that being said, we will hop into our topic number 4. And Dirk, you have officially entered the hot seat. So our topic number 4 is get to know the guest. So yeah, so the floor is yours. So you can kind of share whatever you want to share, Dirk, but just share how you got into theme parks, how you got into Disney, you know, how you got into your job with CinemaBlend, just whatever you want to share. The floor is yours.
All right. Well, I can, let's see. Well, I mean, I went to Disneyland a few times as a kid. I went like, you know, a couple times in like elementary school era. I'm from Northern California, so it was it's close enough, but not that close.
Yeah.
Went a couple times as a kid, did grad night in high school. And then I didn't go for a long time. It was actually, I liked Disneyland. They were fun trips, but I didn't really necessarily become a theme park person until I hit Disney World for the first time in my 20s. I ended up in Florida on vacation. And my girlfriend at the time, my wife now, went and decided to do a few days at Disney World. And like, as an adult going there, I think for those of us who did become kind of super theme park nerds as young adults, you kind of have to have that mindset to really kind of appreciate the insanity that is a well-designed theme park.
Yeah.
And just the attention to detail and all those little things. And when you see that as an adult and you're like, wow, this is really impressive. And so that was probably when I started to really kind of become a quote unquote theme park person. And so then, yeah, I went to Disney World a couple of times, went to Disneyland again a couple of years after that, left with an annual pass, and, you know, then started going a lot. And that was kind of, yeah, when I started doing that and really getting into it. As far as writing about it, that came about 6 years ago. I had my midlife crisis. I did not buy a sports car. I changed careers. And I started as a freelance writer, but got hooked up with CinemaBlend fairly early as doing freelance work and just writing about movies and TV. And I started to kind of push theme park stuff. We would write about theme park stuff if it had a connection to like movies. So like when like early Galaxy's Edge rumors were starting, we would write about what's going on with Galaxy's Edge because we figured, hey, if you're a Star Wars movie fan, you might care about this. If you're interested in Marvel movies, then Avengers, you know, that Avengers thing that they're doing in California Adventure might be interesting. And I, because I was, you know, I would look for those stories to write, and I would ask to write those stories because I was into theme parks. and then I just kind of started I started to wear them down basically, and I kind of went and trying to do more of that. And eventually I started to write more very, very theme park focused stories that were not necessarily about the IP that was attached to them. And we discovered there was an audience. Like I'd write stuff about downtown Disney and people would read it. And so from there, it just kind of became a thing I added to my job and did a little bit more of. And then about 2 years ago, they decided at CinemaBlend, all right, we're going to make theme parks a section. It's going to be just, movies and TV. And here's where you click on to find our reviews. And here's where you click to find all the theme park stories. It's its own thing now. And so that's been what I've been doing. I still write about other stuff, but, which I'm very glad about overall, because as much as I love theme parks, I would hate it if I had to write about, the new color of trash cans.
You had to do an Inside the Magic.
No offense to my counterparts out in the world who write those stories, because if your website is only about theme parks, you have to have content, and so you find it where you can. I have the ability, luckily, to be able to write about theme parks, but then if there really isn't any theme park news that day, I'll write about something else, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And so that's my that's kind of, and so yeah, I mean, and it's been a fun few years to be able to kind of combine my job and my passion. And yeah, it's given me some opportunities. I have been able to do some, media stuff with some of the parks. I'm trying to branch out and kind of get the other parks out in the world to notice me. We do a decent amount with Universal and Disney, but I'm like, hey, I'm actually planning probably next summer. We're looking at making a trip to Dollywood, because I've never been out there, and I hear that park is just amazing.
Yeah, I always hear.
So yeah, it's like I want to hit, I want to check out Dollywood. I want to check out Hershey Park and these other places that are, unique parks that are worth checking out, but obviously don't always get the press that Universal and Disney get.
Question: Were you the one that interviewed? Did you interview The Rock?
I did interview The Rock. I interviewed that was technically a movie story, but because it was Jungle Cruise, I had told my boss, and it had been like a year and a half earlier, because that movie obviously got delayed because of the pandemic. But at some point I said to my managing director, I was like, when there's a press junket for Jungle Cruise, I want it, because it's The Rock, who is awesome, and I've been a pro wrestling fan since I was 9 years old. Yeah. So it's The Rock, and it's a movie based on a Disneyland ride, and the initial release date the year before it got delayed was the day before my birthday. So I was like, this movie was made for me. I want this junket. And then the junket eventually does happen. And because it happened, the movie ended up coming out after my birthday. But because of when the junket was, I interviewed The Rock and Emily Blunt at Disneyland on my birthday.
On your birthday, I remember that. I was so jealous.
Jealous. If you watch the complete video that they posted on the CinemaBlend YouTube, I went and got a button before the interviews, because I am that big a geek. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to wear this because maybe it'll break the ice, and it'll, and it totally did. Like, everybody was like, oh,
that's amazing.
Happy birthday. And The Rock is telling me to go to a strip club because it's my birthday.
I'm not jealous at all, man. I need your job. That is the best story ever.
That was super fun. That was that was a bucket list opportunity. Absolutely, one of the absolute most fun things I've been able to do. And it was super cool. Yeah, they, because the area across from Jungle Cruise, the kind of that seating area that they have, that was still closed down because the park was still only half open at that point. So that was where the interview was. They just put walls in and carpets down, and that was a super fun interview.
You have a great
job. Great. Love it. Well, thank you so much, Dirk, for sharing your story. Everyone, if you don't already follow Dirk, make sure you follow him and check out his work on CinemaBlend, and I'll put the link down below. But that brings us to topic number 5. And Dirk, you are not off the hot seat quite yet. We have a surprise ranking for you to do. Okay. So first and foremost, we need from 3 to 1. So in order, your favorite theme park rides of all time. So it doesn't have to be Disney, just your favorite rides that you've ever been on from 3 to 1.
Oh my God. Well, caveat obviously is that this list will change randomly based on my mood because it always will. I'm going to go, let's see. I'm going to go. Okay. So, all right. I'm going to say number 3 is going to be Hagrid's coaster at Orlando. I have not done Velocicoaster. I have not been there since that opened. So that's one caveat. But that ride is amazing. Number 2 is going to be going to have to be Rise of the Resistance because that ride is just everything.
Wow. Okay.
That ride is literally everything. It is all things. It is a dark ride, and it is a drop ride, and it is like, oh my Lord, that like the first time I actually did that was just a mind-blowing experience because I had worked hard to avoid knowing anything about it. And it just all blew me away, just the scope of it. And then number 1, more of a emotional choice, but Space Mountain at Disneyland.
Okay.
Because you have to have the onboard soundtrack.
Interesting. That's a solid list. I obviously Rise, is a common answer. That's a solid answer. Space at Disneyland is probably up there for me, and I don't think I've heard anyone give that. So that's a good answer. And Hagrid's, that's a great one. I don't think anyone on any episode has mentioned that. So that is a really solid one. I'm glad you're giving love to Universal. All right, our last question, Dirk. We need your number 1 most coveted theme park ride that you've never been on. So it can be a ride that's closed down or that hasn't opened yet, or you just haven't had the chance to visit. But your most anticipated theme park ride in the world?
Oh well, I mean, I think I gotta go Velocicoaster. Because I love roller coasters, but I also I love speed. Like the thing I love about coasters is speed more than like how many times can you spin me around. Like I don't mind doing loops, but that's not what I do roller coasters for. I do them for speed, and I hear, for everything that I have seen and heard, Velocicoaster is my kind of ride. And I just hear that it's amazing. And I have not. I had planned a vacation because Velocicoaster opened. The press junket for Velocicoaster was a couple of weeks after Avengers Campus opened, and I had planned a vacation to go to Disneyland to make sure I saw Avengers Campus early because I didn't know if there was going to be a media event for Avengers Campus because it was during the pandemic and you just didn't know. And so I ended up going to Disneyland 2 weeks in a row because there was a media event for Avengers Campus that I got to go to. And then I was on vacation like literally the next week, but that was the same week of the press junket for Velocicoaster. So we had to send somebody else to that one. And I have not been, I keep sending other people to Orlando. Like they've done 2 or 3 big kind of media things in the last, year. But I'm always unavailable or busy or something is happening. So I haven't, so I end up sending other people to Orlando to do the press junkets. So I have not been able to do the Velocicoaster yet, but I really want to.
Awesome. Well, we'll have to get you out to Orlando soon because, I do feel like you're going to love that. But, solid top 3. Hagrid's, Rise, Space at Disneyland. Kareek, that's got to get you pumped for your trip coming up here in a couple weeks.
Oh, man. I'm counting down the days. Literally, that's all I do on Twitter. I'm at work. I'm just Googling stuff. I'm like, all right, I have game plans. Like, I'm going to make the best of this trip. And it's going to be a lot of fun. And Halloween is my favorite time of year. And I've always said, like, every time I'm on Instagram, I'm so jealous of everybody that does Disneyland Halloween because Disney World doesn't compare when it comes to Disneyland. They just go all out and they both their parks. So I'm just like, I need to do that. So this was the year that I was just like, let's just do it.
Awesome.
No questions asked.
Well, Karik, you are
Sign
the
me up.
character king of the Diz Twitter, and you are the Halloween king of the Diz Twitter, and so you're combining both of those with Oogie Boogie Bash. So obviously, everyone on here, make sure you subscribe to KingdaKha's YouTube at KingdaKha and follow him on Twitter. If you follow Dirk or I, just type in KingdaKha or Karik, and it'll pop right up. And obviously, make sure you follow our special guest, Dirk Libbey. Like I've already said a couple times, I will put his Twitter and his CinemaBlend link down in the bio down below. So make sure you check that out. Thank you both so much for joining me. And with that being said, we will see you guys next time.